Hello, welcome everyone to our July community meeting. I'm Jayla Poppleton. I'm the Resilient Water and Watersheds Director here at Western Resilience Center. And it's my pleasure to welcome you to today's timely discussion on the state of the year's wildfire risk, the fires that are currently burning locally, and proactive measures being undertaken to mitigate risk in this incredibly hot and dry year. A little bit about Western Resilience Center. We were established as a nonprofit in 2009, and we're guided by the mission to serve as a leader, resource, and catalyst for building a sustainable and resilient Yampa Valley region. These topic-focused monthly community meetings are designed to convene leaders and program partners and community members for presentations and discussions on key issues and initiatives so that we can learn together, ask questions, connect, and find ways to continue meaningfully contributing to the sustainable and resilient future of the Yampa Valley. So we've got an outstanding lineup of speakers today and a strong turnout tuning in, reflecting significant interest and concern in this issue, rightfully so. Due to record low snowpack and hot temperatures, our forests are ultra dry, and this is shaping up to be an exceptional wildfire season. An estimated 48 fires have broken out this year in Colorado, and 12 are actively burning across some 245,000 acres is estimated. And that includes, of course, the two fires that have just arrived at our back doors in Steamboat and Oak Creek, plus another fire burning near Meeker in Rio Blanco County, all of which point to the urgency to continue taking action in our forests and on our properties that can reduce wildfire risk and keep our communities safe. In a moment, I'll transition the floor to Dakota Dolan, our Resilient Forests Program Manager, who will be introducing our speakers and moderating the discussion to follow. But just a few logistical items before I do shift to Cody. I'll briefly mention that today's meeting is being recorded and it will be available after the meeting on our YouTube channel. And all registered attendees will receive an email with a link to the recording when it's available. Today's meeting will center around our speaker presentations, but we should have about 10 minutes or so for a roundtable style Q&A at the end. So if you have questions during the talks, please hold them for now or post them in the chat, and Cody will ask them during the Q&A. All attendees are invited to share questions and relevant resources in the chat or during the Q&A period, acknowledging that Western Resilience Center reserves the right to remove content if needed. And please do remember to keep your microphones muted unless asking a question at the end. So with that, I will turn it over to Cody.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jayla. And thank you everyone for joining us today for this very timely conversation. I'm happy to be able to facilitate this meeting. So as Jayla mentioned, it's been an unusual year with low snowpack, high winds, and extreme drought conditions. While we've been planning for today's wildfire discussion for some time, it did feel important to address the Fishhook and Green Ridge fires first so that attendees can be certain they're as informed as possible and aware of local resources that prioritize their safety. We're going to add links in the chat for resources as we go and other information to make sure that you have everything that you need to be prepared for wildfire. This year's drought conditions proved their efficacy to support wildfire this past Sunday, July 12th, when those two fires started within hours of each other. Near Steamboat, the Fishhook fire is now 260 acres located on Rabbit Ears Pass, approximately 2 to 3 miles southeast of the resort. And the Green Ridge fire, now 45 acres and 45% contained, is approximately 2 miles south of Stagecoach Reservoir and prompted evacuations for nearby residents on Sunday. Before we discuss wildfire mitigation with the Routt County Wildfire Mitigation Council, we felt it appropriate to start with updates from Ian Satterfield, Steamboat Springs Deputy Fire Chief, and Ben Cavarra, Steamboat Resort's Sustainability and Utility Specialist. After 28 years serving with Northern Nevada, Ian Satterfield came to Yampa Valley last summer to fulfill the role of our Deputy Fire Chief for the city of Steamboat Springs. And since joining the community, he's been working on mitigation projects, one of which being Emerald Mountain. And he also began serving on the Routt County Wildfire Mitigation Council Board of Directors. And Ian will provide updates on the Fishhook and Green Ridge fires and some additional information about risk, preparedness, and services that the city fire team provides for risk reduction. And Jayla mentioned we'll have time at the end for questions, but feel free to type your questions into the chat as we go, and we'll do our best to address them during the conversation as it happens. So I will go ahead and turn things over to Ian, and we can get started.
All right, can you hear me? All right, thank you, Dakota. So I think the first start will be, essentially an update on what's currently happening. Most of the information that I have is the same information that most folks can get in that Routt County website is the best place to go and get direct information. But as far as the fire out in Stagecoach area, they've got a really good handle on that. They brought in a Type 3 incident management team to manage that, which is kind of a mid-level team to be able to assist the resources on the ground to make sure that they have all the tools necessary to put that out. As everyone probably saw, they hit it really, really hard the first day with a lot of aircraft, and were able to get a wrap around that. They currently have folks that are out on the ground mopping that up, and I would venture to guess by the end of today, you'll start seeing that probably be closer to 75 or 80% in the containment world. So things are looking really good out there. That team will be on there for a few more days to help manage that, and then they'll turn it back over to Oak Creek Fire. So the other one that we're dealing with, which happened right around the same time, is the fire that's up on Rabbit Ears. And like Dakota said, that's being managed by the Forest Service currently. We work hand in hand currently with them as partners, assisting and helping wherever we can. But they're the ones that are currently managing that fire that's up there. So have been going up and attending their briefings in the morning. And so kind of latest information, they have a little over 100 people on the ground up there fighting fire. Really trying to get a handle on that. And then anyone that recreates in that area up there knows that that country up there is pretty rugged and tough, and there's a lot of down trees and snags and that kind of thing that they're having to work through. And so super challenging and difficult country. They have currently ordered up what's called a CIM team, which is kind of the highest level of teams that come in to help manage these fires. And that does a couple of things for the Forest Service. It makes it so that they can provide the more tools and be able to order more resources to be able to get up there and hopefully contain that fire, as well as kind of prioritize us higher up in the national rankings as far as fires go, so that we can get those resources that we need to be able to be up there. And kind of going back to that, the difficulty in terrain, and that part will really be helpful in, bringing those hotshot crews and the crews that, we need to have in there to be able to do that in a safe manner, right? I mean, everything we do is with firefighter and public safety first. So more to come there. I think the other nice thing with them bringing a team in, the information flow, they'll develop a Facebook page. It'll be directly just for, and Instagram and all other kinds of different places where you'll be able to get a lot more information on kind of what's going on with that fire in a more timely fashion and a more immediate. So they bring in quite a force. A team of that nature comes in with about just under 100 people to help manage that, and that team is really there to make sure that us as the public have the information that we need, and that the firefighting forces on the ground have all the tools and things necessary for them to put that fire out, and then also start working on any of the rehabilitation pieces that kind of come with that fire. So I think we have some things in our favor when it comes to that fire as far as the community and the valley down here. It's up in the mountains, and it's to the east of us, which is it doesn't it's not downwind from us. So we have the typical normal winds are in our favor. The slope is in our favor, so it's uphill. Fire doesn't really like to burn downhill, other than maybe in California with the Santa Anas. But we don't live in California, so we don't have to worry about that piece. And so, I think, as far as that goes, we do have some things that are in our favor, even with all the other challenges that are there. So I'm sure there are quite a few more questions that might come to that. But again, the Forest Service is managing that. We're there as partners to help them out where we can. But that really is probably the best update I can give to that. I would suspect that the fire up in rabbit ears is it's going to be here for a little bit. Again, Mother Nature is the one that's really controlling our factors there. And if anybody's got a good rain dance, now is the time to start doing the dance. Even though it didn't work this last winter for the snow dance, we can at least start with the rain dance. And that's what I got for you, Dakota, unless there's some questions that.
Awesome. Thanks, Ian. I wasn't sure if you had photos.
Oh, yeah. So I mean, the other thing I can talk about. So, going more into what Steamboat offers, obviously we work hand in hand with Josh and the Wildfire Mitigation Council in preparation. And so I think, that's, leading going from talking about the fires. I mean, the things that we can do as a community is start preparing, right? And so it's a as we all know, Mother Nature is changing. It's hotter, drier, less snowpack. And so anything we can do to be more resilient. And I think Josh will go into the hardening piece. But one of the things I do is I work on not the team that's coming in, but I work on an incident management team out of the Great Basin. And I was just down at the Cottonwood Fire, which was down just outside of Beaver, Utah. Which is right where Eagle Valley ski area is. So it's where that fire came up through the valley and burned through the ski area. So I had a few photos I just wanted to show, and really my emphasis is on two things. One is just the force and the power that Mother Nature has, and that a lot of times even we can do everything in our power to do the best we can to harden our structures and be prepared. But sometimes if it's the wrong time and the wrong place, Mother Nature will tend to show her force. So then the other part too that I really want to emphasize is the importance of the structure hardening and doing the fuels mitigation. And it really does start with the structure. If you don't have that, then doing fuels mitigation around your house is helpful, but hardening your structure is incredibly important because the things that we're finding in many different studies, and I think everybody will emphasize this today, is that embers and ember wash, they're the ones that are really the ones that are the little bugs that get our get the house and get unfortunately cause the fire and create the structure devastation. So I'm going to try and drag over a picture and see if this works. Can you guys see that? Did it show up as a shared screen, or do I hit share?
Yeah, we're not seeing it yet, but you can
Let's
share
try
your screen.
this. How about now? That work? Okay.
Yep.
So just super quick, this is to me was absolutely amazing. Well, I don't know if it's amazing, but it was fascinating. So this is just an aspen stand, and you can see the power. The fire came from left to right up canyon, and the wind and the force that came through an aspen stand to snap off aspens at halfway, put enough heat into the aspen to actually bend it over is pretty amazing. So when you're looking at, and one of the things that we do in the fire service, it used to be that an aspen stand would be an area that we would call a safety zone, and unfortunately, we really can't claim that as a safety zone anymore. But pretty amazing what occurred here with just the force. Let's see if I can drag this over now. So one of the other ones that I thought is pretty fascinating. Let's see if this works. Let me get rid of the other one behind. Uh, that didn't work. I apologize. Let's see.
You're good. Take your time.
All right. Let's go. All right, now I think I've got it figured out. All right. So one of the structures that was up there that we looked at, and this was actually pretty amazing. So as you can look, when you talk about a hardened structure, obviously this is a fairly new home or new larger home. It's got good defensible space. We got rock all the way around it. We got, the right roof. Everything looks really good. But if you look up here, just behind the chimney, you can see that there's it burned up behind the chimney. And what happened is there was debris that was tucked in behind where the house where the roofing is and where the chimney was. And what the result was is this. So this is looking inside the house. So this is the fireplace. And you can see where just from the debris on the roof, it burned a hole through the roof and then got inside the structure and burned up inside the house a little bit. And luckily enough, I believe when I talked to the folks, um, one of the fire engines that was there was able to get inside and extinguish it. But you can just see the importance behind, clearing all the debris off your roof, whether it's the gutters or within the chimneys. So super important to manage that debris. So the other one I have similarly. So this one again there was debris up on the deck, and so this is actually on the third story of a large home that was up there. And so it caught the debris on the deck on fire. It broke out the window of the door that was there, and then got inside the structure. They threw these other doors up there to kind of keep it so people couldn't get in and out of the house. But again, that was the entry point into the house was through debris that was on the deck that got the deck going on fire that then got entered into the house. Another picture to it. Let's see if I can find it. So I'm going to kind of transition into another piece and kind of one of the things that we talk about a lot is how radiant heat. We kind of worry about the trees and being close to the house and in that radiant heat is what sometimes causes our structures to catch fire. And what we're finding is that's not as true as the embers are concerned. And here's kind of a good example of where I mean this is a house that was under construction. And you can see where the fire went by on almost all three sides. It had the Tyvek on it. It had to have been at least, it's got a concrete foundation, good solid windows. And I'm sure the vents were all, it was well, insulated as far as the vents go. And I believe it had a Class A roof to it. But even with the radiant heat, and you could tell that this house took quite a bit of heat. It still didn't catch on fire, which, if you're going to guess, I think everybody would have bet that this thing probably would have caught fire. So here's another house in a neighborhood that on this fire that lost about 90% of the homes. There are about 40 homes in there. And so you can see the fire burned all the way around this. You can still see that there's green on the trees. And so good defensible space, metal roof, concrete brick all the way around. And again, so no entry point for the embers to get in, but you can see that the radiant heat had real no real impact. I mean, there's not even any blistering on the paint on the house. And kind of the same story with this house. Similarly, again, the fire burned all the way around it, metal roof, no access for embers to get in through the vent system, concrete, good defensible space, gravel all the way around it. no debris or anything on the deck. And this house was one that survived. Um, so the last one I'll show it actually is actually really kind of a fascinating case and not exactly sure. I'm still working through on how this was able to stay. I know that the firefighters, there was a structure engine that got up here that was able to get up on the roof and get this put out. But the neat thing here is you can see from one side to the other where there must have been ember wash that got up underneath where the wind was blowing. The fire was coming from downhill, uphill. And it either got into one of the light faucets, sap faucets. I don't know if that was the right nomenclature for that. That's what it looked like, where it kind of melted through, got into the insulation that was in the attic, and then started burning a hole in the roof. Um, super fascinating to see just how it got caught and how just this large modern construction how the ember wash had to have been in. It was either that or there had to have been some debris on the roof. This was a metal roofed structure, so but super fascinating that on again uh, how embers can make entry, and you can see behind it that's where the fire came up from. This is looking down. This kind of overlooks where the ski area was at. You can see where there's a ski run in the back and the trees in between. So I'll finish it with this, and I think it's the emphasis on the importance of structure hardening, and so this was it fascinating. The Unfortunately, the Eagle Point ski area, they had a brand new lodge, and unfortunately they lost the brand new lodge. Their older lodge survived, partly based on location, but again, there were a lot of factors in this fire that led to some of the devastation and things that don't really play a big part from where we're at. So where this fire started, it was down canyon a long ways, and it came up canyon with the wind at its back on one of those really challenging wind days where the wind was blowing over 40 miles an hour. And so even with 15 structure engines up in the community, there was still quite a bit of devastation that occurred. It was super sad to see. But still, fascinating to see, what was done and what things did survive structure wise, and again, I can only relate it to the hardening that happens right there at the structure. So I know Josh is probably going to go into it a little bit more, and hopefully I didn't steal too much thunder from him. But again, it's some of the services we provide. We work hand in hand with Josh. I really encourage people to get an HIZ done and follow up with it. And it's not a one and done. It's something that you need to continue to do over time. And that's one of the things that we're working on at the city, even in the open space, is starting to look at broad, fuels mitigation projects that are not just a one time only kind of component. It's something that we're going to have to continue to do year after year and circle back around and revisit again. So I think the landscape around Steamboat is going to change a little bit over time, and we'll see it through our work and our mitigation. But the more we can do as homeowners to take care of your own place, the more it helps us out when we show up in a fire engine, because our services are, two fire stations, 10 people on per day. So you can imagine if a fire is coming through quickly, there's only so much we can do as a fire department. So I think with that, I think my time's just about up. I might have even gone over. I apologize, Dakota.
You're good, Ian. Thank you so much. And thanks for sharing those pictures. It's really good proof that making those changes to your home can really be the the thing that changes the outcome. So that was really cool that you were able to share that. So thank you.
You're welcome.
And thanks for making the time to join us in what I'm sure is a very chaotic week. So we appreciate it. Next, we will hear from Ben Cavarra, the Sustainability and Utility Specialist with Steamboat Ski and Resort Corps on resort updates, closures, and efforts to help combat the fishhook fire as their neighbor.
Thanks so much, Cody. Really appreciate it. And thanks to the whole Western Resilience team for the opportunity to speak on this. My name is Ben. I serve as our utility and sustainability specialist, and I've been monitoring the fires on behalf of the resort. As many of you know, the Fishhook Fire is burning a few miles southeast of Steamboat Resort's boundary. And as Cody mentioned, the latest fire boundary report indicates that this fire is approximately 2.5 miles from the resort perimeter. While it is not currently an immediate threat to the resort, our team does recognize that wildfires can be unpredictable, particularly with shifting and variable wind conditions, and have taken precautionary measures in alignment with emergency management plans to ensure guest safety. Midday Sunday, shortly after the fire was first reported, the resort activated an incident command and emergency response team, and all resort events on July 12th were canceled. Out of an abundance of caution, the resort has kept all on-mountain operations above Thunderhead Lodge shut down since midday Sunday, while we monitor the fire and air quality. We also continue to maintain dining, hiking, and biking on both Steamboat Gondola and the Wild Blue Gondola to the mid-station. Our teams continue monitoring the fire and are working with local, state, and federal emergency management and fire officials as conditions evolve. We are also monitoring conditions resulting from the Green Ridge fire, particularly impacts on our employees. Um, as part of the resort's established wildfire preparedness and emergency response plan, snowmaking equipment was mobilized on the afternoon of Sunday, July 12th, and has run overnight since Sunday when weather conditions are favorable. 41 snowmaking guns were mobilized with an intention of helping to saturate targeted areas of the mountain in the Sunshine area, including Tomahawk, Bike, and the High Noon trails. As of this morning, the snowmaking equipment and system remains available and can be reactivated if fire activity or weather conditions warrant additional preventative measures. With ongoing communication with responding agencies, the resort remains vigilant and ready to enact further emergency management plans as required, and are extremely grateful to the responding agencies for their quick response and their ongoing communications with our teams. Um, that's really all I have for an update from our side. I want to express an extreme gratitude to all of the responding agencies and emergency management teams who are participating in helping to combat these fires. And thank you for the opportunity to speak on this on the resort's behalf. And I continue to wish everyone safety and security as you all continue to experience this deeply dry summer.
Thanks so much, Ben, and to the resort as well for providing defenses against northwestern spread of the fishhook fire. Um, our final speaker will round out our conversation by focusing on mitigation strategies and community programs meant to help Steamboat become a fire-wise community looking forward in the age of severe and damaging wildfires. Josh Hankis started as the executive director of the Wildfire Mitigation Council in November of 2022, where he has assisted with creating Routt County's Community Wildfire Protection Plan, partnering with the Wildfire Research Center and Team Rubicon to bring impactful projects to Steamboat Springs, and he serves on the board of directors for Fire Adapted Colorado. He's an important and valuable partner to the Western Resilience Center and a valuable asset to our community. Today, Josh will cover the history of fire and climate in Colorado, evacuation zoning, go bags and planning, programs for homeowners, Wildfire Research Center study results, the Routt County Recovery Group, and how we can use funding to strengthen these types of programs. I will now turn it over to you, Josh.
Thanks, Cody. That was quite an introduction. I'm going to see if I can share my screen here. Let's see. Bear with me a second.
Yep,
Hmm,
you're good.
I am. Are you looking at a green landscape or are you looking at the slideshow?
The slideshow.
Oh, okay. Great. Well, that's not what I'm seeing, but as long as that's what you're seeing, I will forge ahead. Okay, thank you. As Cody mentioned, my name is Josh Hankus. I'm the executive director for the Routt County Wildfire Mitigation Council. We're a 501(c)(3) organization formed in 2020 after a conversation here in Routt County amongst the stakeholders and land managers that asked the question, what are we going to do to address the threat of wildfire on a larger scale here? And so the decision was made to form this nonprofit organization and to form it with the intention of it being like a mitigation hub for those stakeholders to convene and share ideas. So we do that twice a year with a spring and a fall conference. And then probably most of our time we spend just doing education, outreach, and running programming here, and then a handful of smaller initiatives. So we get pretty critical support from the entities that you see up on the screen there, including Ian's with Steamboat Fire. On our board of directors also sits folks from Routt County Emergency Management and Department of Environmental Health, um, staff from Colorado Mountain College, a handful City of Steamboat Springs, Cody Dolan, of course, from the Western Resilience Center, a recent addition. So anyway, we get good support here locally. The bulk of our funding comes down through the Colorado State Forest Service and some of their grant programs, as well as the Bureau of Land Management. So um, I'll start us off and just talk about kind of the local and the historical context. What you're looking at there is basically the same view over an 80-year span. And what this spotlights is kind of this legacy of suppression. So fire is part of our natural ecological cycle. Um, it's needed to kind of turn over these forests. And our U.S. Forest Service was formed in 1905. About 5 years later, there was a huge series of fires in the northwestern across several states. It burned about 3 million acres in 2 days. So for scale, what are we at? 45 acres down in Stagecoach and maybe just shy of 300 acres up on Rabbit Ear. So a 3 million acre burn in 2 days is a lot. And I bring that up because fire is not new to the landscape. Um, and is not outside of what we would normally expect, except we're humans and we've gotten ourselves involved. And so, um, moving forward to the early 1930s, there was another series of big fires. And so the U.S. Forest Service instituted at that time what was known as the 10 a.m. rule. And that required that any fire or ignition was either contained or out by 10 a.m. the following morning. And that kind of set forth um, what you're seeing in those photos. We basically put out fires and didn't let them burn the way that they naturally would. And so the result has been we've gone from what used to be a 25% tree stand, 75% forested meadow to the inverse, where now we've got 75% tree stand and 25% forested meadow. In that same period, we did a lot of building and developing and moving into areas where fire would definitely want to travel across the landscape. We have really throttled climate change, and we've got hotter, drier summers and shorter, drier winters. Um, we've had about 25 years of drought here in Routt County, which has resulted in the beetle kill and the lodgepole pine, and a lot of that pent up fuel. And in Routt County, we're about 50% public land. And so we're kind of sitting in a little bit of a tinderbox. And I always harken back to when I was hired and was told by everybody, like Ian, that this is not a question of if, but when we have a big catastrophic fire here. So hopefully we're not waiting for it to happen this year, but I think that we'd be kidding ourselves if we didn't acknowledge that potential. So I touched on the drought a little bit in those opening words. This is our historical drought across the top of the screen for the last 25 years. You can see we've most years been in some version, whether it was just like a light abnormally dry or what we're in right now, which is a pretty exceptional drought. Um, So, um, talking a little bit about resources here, and weather and activity. The National Interagency Fire Center likes to designate a preparedness level, which indicates what the strain on those resources is, how much activity there is, what the weather conditions are showing us. Right now, we're at a PL4. So we're pretty heavily committed. And what that can mean for us here in rural Northwest Colorado is that not that we won't get those resources, but they might be a little bit slower. And that can make a difference. So that the way that I read that is that the emphasis on preparedness needs to fall back on us as citizens and residents here. And we need to really be thinking about our own planning and how we can be prepared for any of these events. Um, this is the most recent outlook issued. So we're looking at July in the larger frame there. We can see the whole western half of Colorado is in an above average wildland fire potential. And then when we skip forward to August, we're still there. And I think I haven't done the math here or the analysis, but it doesn't change much from July to August. And I'll say that I did skip ahead and I looked at September and October, and it drops considerably, but we're still at the very beginning of this. And so even if we're very fortunate and we're able to get fishhook under control and contain spread, that's not to say that that's going to be the last event that we bear witness to here in Routt County this summer. So the good news is we do have a community wildfire protection plan that was published in September of 2023. It was a collaboration of a lot of the different stakeholders, including all the fire districts and the land managers and our fire management officer, with the U.S. Forest Service and district rangers. We identified 170 projects that fit into the categories of life safety, critical infrastructure, economic drivers, and of course, property. Um, on the county's Office of Emergency Management page, there is a dashboard that does a pretty good job of tracking progress on some of these projects, or at least tracking what projects are being worked on and have been completed. I would say there's certainly more work to do here and room for improvement on this in terms of prioritizing and doing considerable analysis around population clusters. So when I think about things that we can do if we had more resources, like this would be one where we've got the framework for a plan, but we really need to throttle it. We are in a year that is particularly challenging, and I'd be surprised if this is the last year that we sit through that looks like this. Um, we talked about or Ian touched on the Ready, Set, Go program. That's a framework for doing just that, being ready, being set, and then being prepared to go when that evacuation order is given. And so you can look this up if you have not already, or if this is new to you. I would encourage you to. It is a great framework for doing some disaster planning and evacuation planning around for you and your family. Don't forget to include your pets and your livestock. I would encourage everyone to have a go bag packed. And if you are not, if the things that you're going to put in your go bag you are using on a daily basis, like have them at least listed out so that if you get that pre-evacuation notice, you're not scratching your head wondering what you should be looking for or trying to think of what things are in and around your house that you couldn't live without. Um, would also encourage people if you're could use a little bit of extra time, or if you're in, deep in one of these one road in, one road out, or in a densely populated area, like you don't have to wait for that evacuation order. If you're packed and ready, you can just go. That'll save you some time. It'll save emergency responders. It'll be one less person to coordinate. Evacuations can be very chaotic. And when we think about, especially like at the base of the resort and where populations are clustered, where you're going to be evacuating a lot of people all at once, um, it could be a real challenge, especially in this county. So, um, have a plan with your family, a safe place to meet up. Communications can become challenging and strained, those communications infrastructure. So if you know where you're meeting and cell service drops or gets overloaded, um, that's one question that you don't have to answer. You just have a plan in place for your family already. And then, of course, thinking about several evacuation routes. We get that question a lot, like, why isn't there more evacuation planning? And the answer is pretty simple. Like every event is going to throw a different set of circumstances at us. So it's not quite the same as if you're living near the ocean and there's a tsunami, you know you're going inland. With wildland fire, it could be up on Rabbit Ears to the south of the resort or to the north of the resort or up in Clark, or it could be a brush fire out in West Routt. So um, it's got to be situation specific. Um, Routt County Alerts is the way that you're going to be notified first and foremost. That's there's lots of other good places to receive information, but that is where it's going to get pushed out first. And they're using a pre-evacuation and an evacuate designation. In so thinking about that kind of adjacent to ready, set, go. Um, in the ready stages, you want to have a go bag packed. You want to have that list. You want to have your plan, and you want to make sure everyone in your household is registered for Routt County alerts. Um, but when that pre-evacuation notice is given, that's kind of it's pretty close to the set portion of the Ready, Set, Go framework. And that's when you're communicating with your family, maybe checking in with your neighbors who might need more help, gathering up any last minute supplies, throwing stuff into your car, and potentially leaving if this feels like there's some urgency to it or you could use a little bit of extra time. And then when the evacuate order is given, you go. That's not time to do anything other than get in your car and get out of the way. They don't issue those with evacuate in 60 minutes. Evacuate means it's time to get going. And so we saw down in Stagecoach, um, that evacuation order was given just 15 minutes after the pre-evacuation order was given. So that's why I go back to in Routt County, we always need to be ready. You have to tighten up that time between being ready and being set and going in a very serious way. So this is an example. One of our ambassadors put together a go bag using some of those best practices and was good enough to take a picture of it and label it for us. So you can look back to this slide. But this to me looks like A plus. This person is ready. I know that she keeps this in a Tupperware bin in her garage, so there's not a lot of scurrying around to do. So that's what we mean by ready. And so the county did a great job of identifying evacuation zones and designating them this year. This is not a current map, so if you're in OC 528 or 536, that evacuation order has been lifted at this point. But that's what this looks like. So it is a good idea to know your zone. If you're not home and you're not don't have access to a tablet or something, and you get that alert, you want to have the familiarity with that number. Programs and resources. So I'm going to touch on some of the things that our organization does. We offer home ignition zone evaluations. Ian mentioned that earlier. This is a one-on-one personal inspection where we'll send somebody from our staff out to your home, spend about 60 to 90 minutes developing a report for you. It's digital, software based, it's dynamic. So if we tell you that you should probably remove all the juniper along the eastern edge of your house. And 3 weeks later, you've got a weekend free and you do that. You can take a picture of it, upload it to the software. I can sit at my desk and say, doop, that's resolved. They got rid of that juniper and that'll reorient your report. This, we charge $100 for this service. Which does not cover our costs. Right now, we're offering 40% off. So if you go to our website, which is routwildfire.org, you can find home ignition zone evaluations under our programs. If you sign up, you can enter the discount code FOURTH, FOURTH, like 4th of July, and you'll receive 40% off of that service. And let me back up a little bit. Just to touch on what Ian was saying before. Um, there are three zones that we think about in your home ignition zone. The 0 to 5 feet one is the most important, and in keeping nothing combustible there, that includes your structure. So, um, not just having the structural hardness like the Class A roof and vents screened and nothing within those 5 feet that's combustible, but doing the maintenance on it. So if you've got like the home that Ian showed us that had a metal roof and was still able to catch fire because there was some debris that had collected between the chimney and on that roof space, that like the work doesn't really stop. And so we can come out and help you kind of identify where those vulnerabilities are on your house and around your property. Um, and then take it easy on yourself. Can be expensive. It can take time. There are small things that you can do that have huge impact. It does not have to get tackled all at once, but it's important to start thinking about it if you haven't already. And then if you're like me, you've got a neighbor that's less than 100 feet from your walls. And so this is just one more reason to be a good neighbor, so that you can have these conversations with your neighbors, hopefully, and get them to understand that what happens on your property affects them, and what happens on their property affects you. Um, and I won't spend time on this. I want to make sure that we're getting ourselves caught up. But it is science at this point. We've seen enough communities burn that we know what works and what doesn't work. There are whole labs devoted to testing building materials, and we can absolutely replicate the results that Ian showed us from Utah earlier. Um, We have a self-guided tour at the Yampa Botanic Park, Yampa River Botanic Park. It is a little bit of a scavenger hunt. We did it this morning as a staff, and it is it is a beautiful walk through the garden, but it can be a little bit challenging to find these plants. But there are plantings that you can use around your home that are much more resilient than juniper and spruce trees and some of the other things that are resinous and are going to flare up really quickly. So there's smart ways to landscape and ways that we can do this and still maintain an aesthetic beauty that we want around our homes, and have that resilience as well. We do offer a rebate program. You do have to have a home ignition zone evaluation to qualify for a rebate, but you could save or we could reimburse you up to $500 if you're replacing sections of non-combustible fence that are attached to your home. We learned that in the Marshall Fire that they can act like fuses and just run structure to structure. So breaking that line between something combustible and the structure can be really effective. Um, Screening your vents or replacing them using an 1/8 inch non-combustible screen can be incredibly effective for keeping embers from getting into your attic or inside the home and resulting in a structure fire. And then hardening that zone one, that first 5 feet around your home. We also learned that we have a lot of non-compliance around house signs here in Routt County. So we offer an address sign program for $35. You can get a little sign, and for $45, you can get one of the larger county road signs. These are non-combustible, they're reflective, they're first responder approved. And again, when we think about, for example, Stagecoach, we've got response teams that are not familiar with the roads or with the landscape. They're from different parts of the county or different parts of the country, even. That's where this can be very important. We offer a free chipping program, so that can help homeowners get rid of some of that hazardous vegetation that maybe was pointed out to them during a home ignition zone evaluation or that they've identified themselves. The next one is happening in Oak Creek on Saturday, the 18th. And then we have one that's tentatively looking like it's going to land on Saturday, August 22nd, up at the Meadows parking lot. Thank you, Ben, in partnership with the city of Steamboat Springs and the ski resort. We also run a neighborhood wildfire ambassador program. I think we've got about 35 neighborhood ambassadors, and they bring real value to their communities just in terms of expertise, access to enhanced programs. So we will come around and do 2 free years of curbside chipping in ambassador neighborhoods. And so that would save you a trip to the resort or down to Oak Creek in coming weeks. And if you had an ambassador in your neighborhood, we would just come pick it up and chip it at the end of your driveway. But they're, I mean, just a wonderful group of people. So if you are wildfire savvy, respected by your neighbors, interested in making some change in your community, this would be a great program. Reach out. We do training in partnership with Fire Adapted Colorado, so that everybody kind of has a baseline knowledge before they become an ambassador and are kind of turned loose on their communities. But it's the best way to reach into these communities is through those activated community members. And then if you've got some real traction in your community, you can become a Firewise USA recognized neighborhood. And so to do this, you would form a committee or a board. You would have a community wildfire risk assessment that we would help you out with. Somebody from our organization will a lot of times sit on that committee or board as they're getting started, and at least until the recognition is received, and help just with ideas and kind of be an objective set of eyes and ears on that committee. We'll help you develop multi-year goals, and then you just track your investments and your labor and celebrate your successes. But this is a great way to kind of set the tone for the community. If you've got um, homes that sell, it lets new homeowners know that, hey, this is important here, and we need to really be thinking about this. If they're making changes to their own landscape or to their own structures, to really be thinking about doing it in the most resilient way possible. I'm going to skip over this just because we're tight on time, but please do go look at our website. We've conducted 3 studies with the Research Center, and we've got 3 more that will be coming um, next year. We've already been approved for them, and they tell us a great deal about the community itself. They tell us about the risk in the community, where programming is going to be important and impactful, and how that community is thinking about their own risk. Really, really interesting stuff. We won a governor's award for high impact research in partnership with the Wildfire Research Center. So, um, interesting, interesting work, and very, very insightful. Um, very recently, we have partnered with the United Way of the Yampa Valley and the Yampa Valley Community Foundation, and our can't remember what we're calling the Office of Emergency Management. They're not quite partners, but they're definitely heavily involved, and overseeing and informing the Northwest Colorado COAD. And that COAD stands for Community Organizations Active in Disaster. Um, Haley in our office spent considerable time in 2024 and 2025 putting together what's called a recovery playbook, which offers a number of before, during, and after recommendations for a community disaster. And so the primary recommendation was plan ahead and form a long-term recovery group before you're in an event, so that you can take proactive measures and be prepared and not be figuring this stuff out during the most stressful of times. So the Community Event Foundation and the United Way were very interested, and we started getting together late last year, and this year we have formed this COAD. We're basically designing it to support OEM during and after disaster with resources, volunteers, and funding. So if people are looking to volunteer or looking for ways to get involved with wildfire recovery, I would encourage them probably first to reach out to the United Way. They're managing the volunteer end of this, and can plug you into other areas if you've got expertise or resources that would benefit this COAD in other ways. Let's see, building code. If you don't know, we've adopted new building code and landscape code here in Routt County, and the municipalities. This was a requirement, but it is wildfire resilience and basically takes those home ignition zone principles and puts them into policy. Um, so you can reach out to the county building and planning departments or in your municipality. You can find out more about what exactly that means. But it's live as of July 1st, and we are all compliant at this point. I'm not going to get into homeowners insurance because that could be an hour in and of itself, but it's a it's a situation for sure. Um, and so I just want to leave you with a couple of key things that we can do today. If you haven't signed up for Routt County Alerts, please do that and encourage everyone in your home to do it. Keep an eye on the fire weather and the restrictions. Develop a family plan, pack your go bags, inventory your assets. So a good way to do that is just to kind of open up all the cabinets and drawers and get your stuff out and walk around and take a video, upload it to the cloud or to your favorite digital service that isn't hosted on hardware in your home so that if your home is lost, you have record of all that stuff. That will help you incredibly with your insurer when you're saying, I had these things, and they're saying, prove it. It's much easier to do if you've got a video. And then check your insurance. Check out what your cost to rebuild numbers are, if they jive with the current state of building costs here. Um, if you haven't done that in a few years, it's definitely worth looking at and making sure you don't want to find out that you're underinsured when you need your insurance. Um, and so that's it for me. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Great. Thank you so much, Josh, for sharing all of your information. And thank you, of course, for your leadership and dedicated efforts to keep Steamboat residents safe. I know you have so much to share, and I'm sorry to cut you short. We did have one question in the chat. You kind of just touched on it there, mentioning the resiliency code, but someone did have a question just about kind of general knowledge about the new upgraded fire codes. If you have a link to, I was just looking it up to see if there was a link to the PDF or maybe like a bulleted PDF that has kind of like highlights or things that homeowners should know. If you have any resources for that, we had some interest in what that code kind of entails.
Yeah, I know that Todd Carr has got some stuff on the county website. If so, if I'm not, I could
Okay.
probably pull it up and stick it into the chat here. Um, but I would encourage, I would encourage you to reach out to the building department. They're going to have those resources that'll kind of guide you on what things to consider. Some of the stuff we've had for years, like a Class A roof, and then some of the things have changed, like we've gone from quarter-inch screening to eighth-inch screening to help with ember defense. But there's much more to it. So it's worth reaching out and understanding before, or at least if you're working with an architect or a builder, making sure that they're aware of this. I know Todd held a day or two's worth of contractor seminars where he provided them, the local contractors and builders and architects, with updates and overviews of what this code looks like. And um, so the resources are out there for sure.
Okay, perfect. I'll add something in the chat. Oh, it looks like Ian just added a link. Um, so that's available to everyone. Um, I also kind of wanted to prompt a question, unless if we have, does anyone have questions? I have none others in the chat at the moment, but I have a question if we don't have another one from another participant. Okay, I'll go for it. So can you tell us a little bit about the efforts that are happening to get funding for wildfire mitigation and land stewardship practices in Routt County coming up? Oh, I don't know, in say fall of 2026.
I could say a little bit about that. We've been working mostly Amber Pugialis with Community Ag Alliance and myself, along with Western Resilience Center and Friends of the Yampa and Yampatika, Colorado Cattlemen's Agricultural Land Trust, probably forgetting one or two. But Um, yeah, we've been working with Trust for Public Land um, on a potential ballot measure for the fall. And so first we conducted a feasibility study to look at the potential tax measures that were available here and would have the most likely chance of success. And we've taken that feasibility study and developed around that a series of polling questions. So we're in polling right now. Expect to have that polling complete hopefully by the end of this week. And then we'll present that to the commissioners for their consideration and kind of see where it takes us. It is unknown as of yet whether or not anything makes it to the ballot. You know, polling would have to be very favorable. There are a lot of other considerations that include affordability and just some of the other ballot measures that may take priority. But we're hopeful, and I think when I think about our community wildfire protection plan, and I think about this drought year, and I think about the sort of ununiqueness of it all, and even go back to when I started this job, when I started reading about wildfire in the West and where we are, and the word that kept coming up was outpaced. We're being outpaced by the problem, and we cannot keep up in terms of solutions. And so, when I look around the Western Slope here and look at what other communities and counties and municipalities have done, I think we're doing some really good work. But I think that there's plenty of room for more of this work to get done to improve community resilience and make sure that people have resources and the support that they need to address things like new building codes and just offset some of that cost and have things like free chipping days and things like that. So and beyond. I mean, we're talking about healthy forests and watershed health, and so there's just so much that can be done. We've done tons of good planning here. Um, and we just need a little bit of local funding that we can then go out, pull in some of these larger dollar grant funds that require matching funds. And if we don't have those matching funds, we're going to limit our access to those bigger dollars. So anyway, I I hope to be able to present something much more eloquent than that and with more specifics in not too distant future. But for now, know that we're working on it and that it's important work. And if you get the opportunity to take a survey in the next day or two, take those 20 minutes and give us honest feedback. We'd love it. So thanks, Cody. Great question.
Thanks, Josh. And we do have a couple quick mentions in the chat. I know it's just over 2 o'clock, but we're going to try to breeze through these really fast. One question about Routt County alerts. Is it based on your location or your address? Do you happen to know the answer to that?
I think it's both. So Routt County Alerts has got the ability to. S- I probably shouldn't answer this because I really don't know with certainty, but
I think
Ian,
Ian,
go ahead.
Ian might know.
Yeah, so yeah, Routt County Alerts is to your address, and the nice thing with Routt County Alerts is they're able to give you more information. They do have another system, and I can't remember the abbreviation to it, but it's very similar to Amber Alert, where it's based on the cell tower and where you're located at. So if you and people who have their cell phone and you drive into that area, and all of a sudden your phone starts beeping. That's that system. And so they like to have two different systems. One, for us to capture like folks that are outside of town and don't live here in Routt County. But as far as like getting better, more up to date, more detailed information, they can put links, they can do all kinds of different things with Routt County alerts. Whereas with the Amber Alert system, they can really only say, hey, you need to evacuate this zone and for a wildfire or whatever it might be. So I think the key piece there is it's a great resource for us to have. The second part to it is know your zone, know what evacuation zone that you live in. And then which you can all get from, I think you threw the link up there. So it's up there. It's a new system that the counties put together. And it makes it really good for us as first responders to be able to evacuate areas in a really fast, quick manner. because we can just say just evacuate that zone. So know your zone and sign up for the alerts. Hopefully that answered that question.
Perfect. That was great. Thanks so much, Ian and Ben and Josh. Thank you for your time and all the important work that you do every day. Sorry, we're a few minutes over, so we'll wrap this up here, but thank you all for attending. I hope it's been helpful, and this recording will be available on our YouTube, and reach out if you need access to any of the resources in the chat and you missed it. Thanks a lot, everyone. Have a fabulous day.